Hello, this is Brother Cromar from the Math Department here at BYU Idaho, and this will be part 2 of Lesson 4. And where we last left off on part 1 is where we calculated the mean of the discrete random variable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this information here, the number of heads from two flips, and calculate the variance and the standard deviation of a discrete random variable. So here's the formula for it, to where what we'll do is that we will take each observation minus the mean. This represents the mean. Mu is the Greek letter which stands for mean for statistics. And what we'll do is we'll take each observation minus the mean. We calculated the mean to be 1 in the last problem. And then we'll square the difference and we multiply it times the probability. And we'll do it for each observation, and then we'll sum everything up. Now here's an example of it here, where if we take the number of heads being 0 minus the mean being 1, we take the difference of those two and square it and times it by the probability, and then we add that to taking the number of heads being 1 minus the mean and squaring that and getting and times the probability of 0.5, and then added to that we take the number of heads being 2 minus the mean, squaring that, and times the probability, which is 0.25, and we add those all up and we get the variance of 0.5. We take the square root of that value and we get a number of 0.707, and that is the standard deviation. Now this is kind of longhand doing it, but there's a nice way to do it in Excel. Let me show you how it's done. It's really pretty nice. Okay. Now first of all, let me just pull this out here. Actually, let me get rid of this here. Let me pull this out right here. That's what I meant to do. And so say for instance the events where we have 0 heads, 1 head, and 2 heads, and then the probabilities of each is 0.25, 0.5, and 0.25. Okay, and so then what we can do is with this is that we can use Excel using the formulas to get our results. For instance, with the mean, we take each of these events times the probability and get a result. And that's what I do here is I take each of the events times the probability, and I do it 3 times over. Now you notice on the function here that I created, I did this, but I also did something else. So if there was a blank over here on the left side, then this whole thing on the right would also be blank. Okay, and then I did it for everything here. And so the next thing I did was down here I sum up everything in this column, and that gets you your mean. Okay, now for the variance, what I do here is that I take each of the events, or the event values 0, 1, and 2, minus the mean from it. Notice here C11, that's C11, and notice here it's what's called an absolute reference, where we're going to always refer to this cell when we're getting the mean. So we take each of these values here, 0, 1, and 2, and subtract the mean from it. We square it, and then we times it by the probability. So for this first example, we take 0 minus the mean, which is 1, and then we square that, and then we times it by the probability, and we get this number. And we do it for all these 3 different events. Then to get the variance, we sum these 3, and then this is what I do down here, is that I sum those to get the variance. And then to get the standard deviation, I just take the square root of this value up here and get the standard deviation. This is the function in Excel to get the square root of a value. And this is a really nice way. Excel is a great tool to use, and it's a very effective tool to use when you're trying to find or calculate the mean, the standard deviation, the variance and the standard deviation of a discrete random variable. And that concludes the videos for Lesson 4. And if you have any questions, please talk it over with your teacher.